Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Gabe Literman and I am the admissions representative for the DeVos Graduate School at Northwood University. My role is to guide you through the admissions process and act as your advisor throughout the enrollment process. So today our agenda will be as follows. We're going to have an overview of Northwood University and who we are at the DeVos Graduate School. We're going to discuss our GM partnership and MBA program curriculum. We're also going to hear from faculty member Matt O'Connor, who will talk about making change work. We're also going to end with a little bit about our scholarships and our admissions process. So we will have questions. If you look to the right of your screen, you will see there's a chat function. If those of you are listening on the phone as well, I'll send out my contact information for additional questions. Let's get started. We are so pleased that you are investing your time today to learn about our partnership with GM and Northwood, and we hope that you will see that this program will help you advance your career. We see education as an investment that has a great ROI. Northwood University and General Motors has partnered for 4 years to offer the Executive MBA program, but we've been partnering with the automotive industry for decades to ensure that what you are learning in the classroom has direct application to what you are doing professionally. We have a 50-year plus history of educating the automotive industry, and our mission is that we are developing the future leaders of a global free enterprise society, and we've customized that for the automotive industry, and in this case, for GM. We have over 3,500 graduates across the globe in our automotive degree programs, and over 50,000 automotive employees have participated in our continuing education programs. And that is really a testament to our longstanding partnership that Northwood has in your industry. So at the graduate level, DeVos has offered an MBA that focuses on dealerships, aftermarket, a motor vehicle executive MBA, and also the GM executive MBA, which we're going to be sharing with you today. So this partnership is a give and take and definitely a win-win for our students and the industry. So next, I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Matt O'Connor. He's an assistant professor here at DeVos Graduate School. Dr. O'Connor has over a decade of experience as a strategy, marketing, and research consultant for major corporations like Nestle, Keurig, Dow Chemical, and John Deere. Matt is our lead faculty and for leadership courses here at the graduate school and is the founder of the leadership training and development firm Growth for Leadership. Welcome, Matt.
Who is online today and joining us. I'm honored that you took the time out of your day to participate in this event. It's a interesting and really challenging topic. So we're going to talk through a little bit about Northwood first, go through some of the ideas or elements of our program, and then put it into play with a small nugget around making change work. And that will illustrate really how we kind of do things in class and some of the information that we, use as part of our program. So like Gabe said, I am a assistant professor here at the graduate school, Northwood University. I've been here for about a year now, and I'm lead faculty on a couple different courses, organizational behavior and leading and managing people. And these courses are fundamental to our program and the work that we do with General Motors because we do have a 50-year history of educating the automotive industry, right? We have over 3,500 graduates from our automotive degree programs. Over 50,000 automotive employees have participated in our continuing education program. So we know the auto industry really well. We understand the challenges people are facing. We understand the opportunities and the threats that are out there in the market. And our program that we've developed in collaboration with General Motors really is kind of customized to that end. And as Gabe alluded to in the beginning, this has been a partnership that has been productive and valuable over the years. And that's really kind of what we're here to talk about today. This is our focus, and you're going to hear me discuss or mention a few words quite a bit over the next half hour or so. And those are applied, those are relevant, okay, those are words that are really unique and custom to our program. So the GM and DeVos Executive MBA is a really kind of fascinating and powerful opportunity for individuals. It's an executive MBA. It's rigorous. It's designed for people who are currently executives, but also aspiring executives. And that's important to understand. The notion that you are in a leadership role or you are striving or aiming to grow into one is something that all of us deal with as individuals over the course of our careers. In our program, which is a fully accredited program, it's 24 months. The curriculum, which we'll talk about a little bit in more detail as we move through this conversation, is really designed to meet the needs of GM professionals. And as you make this decision and as you think about graduate school, I want you to kind of think about where you are now as a professional and where you want to grow and how this program and how the concepts and the approaches that we use in our program, which are different and unique, and we'll talk a little bit about those, can help you achieve your goals. One of the main differentiators for our program is that it's collaborative in nature. We learn from our peers, we learn from faculty, and we apply coursework almost immediately to your jobs in your daily lives, right? So the concepts and tools that we use and we teach and we study in the program are relevant and applicable almost immediately to what you're doing every day at work. And that's really what's interesting and most valuable about our programs is that combination of application and relevance and the collaborative aspect that goes into it. And I'll talk a little bit about that. The executive MBA that we designed and created in partnership with General Motors is really interesting. And here's an overview of the courses that are in the program. So as you move through the program, you'll take a combination of courses. They are generally 8-week courses. You'll take 2 a semester, everything from business and economic policy through finance and accounting into the leadership world and the leadership realm, organizational behavior, strategy, marketing, process improvement. And you'll see on here a couple of different GM-focused courses: GM process improvement for managers, GM strategic management. In addition, you'll see on the screen a practicum and a directed study. And those are really opportunities for you to even apply what you're learning more deeply, apply what you're learning and studying in a way that other programs might not, right? So the practicum, the competitive strategy and marketing practicum, is an opportunity for you to work with a line of business at General Motors and develop a strategy and a marketing plan that will lead to some form of organizational success, right? And that's a semester-long project that you work very closely with a faculty member on to make it as impactful as possible. And the same is true for the General Motors Capstone project, which is really one of the most, I think, powerful and influential components of the program. It's a directed study, and I'm going to click here to the next slide. It's a directed study program, so it's a semester-long class where you immerse yourself in a project working with your organization, with your faculty member on a particular topic, and that topic can be developed in collaboration with those people. Everything from leadership or employee engagement down to process and plant improvement. The idea for the topic and the focus of the topic is really up to you, and you develop that, you design it, and you execute the project over the course of 8 weeks, working hand in glove with your organization and your faculty member. And the end result tends to be a really tangible and quantifiable impact on the organization that's focused on cost reduction, revenue generation, profit maximization. So there's not only the learning aspect of it, but there's the applied aspect of it too, which is a really powerful combination in one that has been tremendously successful over the years. You can see some examples up here on the screen of individuals or particular projects over the years and the results that have been attributed to those. You can see everything from 6 million to 36,000. And all of it depends on kind of how you structure and design that application project and how you immerse yourself in that over the course of that program. So you're kind of leading up throughout the course of our program to this capstone directed study to generate real results for General Motors. And it's one of our, proudest and most, tangible projects that we do here. And it's something that, we're really, really fond of. These can be as involved or as detailed as you want them to be. A lot of times we talk about getting out what you put in to your program here, and these directed studies can consume you in a good way for the time period. I mean, you can dig into detail, you can conduct research, you can really, really generate some fascinating and relevant results as part of this directed study. So it's something we're incredibly excited about having as part of our program, in addition to the rest of the coursework. And you can apply the different concepts from the coursework that you do leading up to this in the directed study. So it kind of builds a snowball effect as you move through the program. If you have questions about any of these projects or any of these capstone assignments, please feel free to ask questions or to reach out to us afterwards. Okay. In addition to the capstone, in addition to the courses, we do things a little differently through our executive MBA and General Motors. Okay, we try to craft and create a program that is relevant to you as an automotive professional, and that's something that I think we're really, really good at. Our courses are continuously under review for currency and relevance. And, what does that mean? We're constantly tweaking our courses. We're constantly adding new courses or adding new assignments, new readings, new materials. And we do that for a couple of different reasons. One is that we are, as faculty members and as an organization, incredibly curious, and we are focused on new ideas and new models and new topics that are emerging out there in our worlds that have real relevance to our students. But at the same time, we understand that what you do on a daily basis at General Motors is constantly changing. And you'll hear that term come up when we talk through a change model that we use in our class. Things are evolving and changing. And, we need to stay on top of that. You need to stay on top of that. And it's that combination that allows us to craft courses that are continuously new and fresh and relevant and important to the work that you're doing in your daily lives. So that's something we're really excited about and something that we take very seriously here. Case studies and discussion topics. As an online program, we use a lot of case studies and discussion topics to facilitate learning. And case studies are an incredible way for us to apply knowledge to situations. So there will be very few, if at all, right, PowerPoints, lectures, that sort of thing. Our classes are engaging, they're collaborative, they're dynamic, and we use cases and discussions to illustrate the tools and concepts that are important to us and important to students. And through that, we're able to generate some learnings and some insights and some skills that are then transferable to you on a daily basis in your jobs. And the same thing with online discussions. We do a lot of discussion boards, a lot of engaging with content. We do simulations. We do different types of collaborative efforts. And as faculty member, we're right there with you in that course, right? This isn't something where, you don't hear from us for a few weeks. I mean, we are there in the discussions. We are there engaging with you. We are applying, we are pushing, and we are facilitating the conversations and the collaboration in order for you as students to extract the most value you can from the course. And that's really our goal. We want a student who comes through the General Motors Executive MBA to leave saying, wow, I learned so much from that. It was incredibly relevant, incredibly practical. And we believe that, and we live that here as part of our program. So you will see me, if you have a course with me, on a discussion board, in the simulations, talking about the cases as well, providing my perspective, challenging students, working with them to help tease out ideas and issues along the way. So it's a very collaborative process. We talked about the capstone project a bit earlier. The capstone project is an incredible way for you to combine, right, functional or technical skill development with leadership development. And also, those are so intertwined now. You can focus on a as technical concept or project as you want, but ultimately you have to think about how are you going to deploy it? How are you going to implement it? Are you changing a process? Are you changing a system or a structure or a policy as part of your capstone project? And then how are you going to lead that change? How are you going to put it into play? How are you going to execute? And the capstone project can help students not only develop the functional or technical expertise, but also the leadership skills that they need to make things work. Okay, and that's a really, really powerful combination that we talk about, we teach, we emphasize here as part of the program. So as an example, right, and this is a bit of a nugget of a topic that comes up in one of the classes I teach. So I'm a lead faculty member for our class, Leading and Managing People. So it's a leadership course. And organizational change is an enormously important topic, right? It receives a lot of attention out there in the literature. It receives a lot of attention in practice because organizational change is absolutely necessary for anyone in a leadership or management role, right? Organizations, including General Motors, including Northwood, right? We should all be consistently and constantly evolving or adapting to remain competitive and healthy, right? It's a fact of life these days. If you sit still, you get stale, and you will sort of disappear, right? You have to be staying ahead of the curve. You always have to be analyzing the external environment, the internal trends that are going on, and figuring out how your organization can adapt and thrive for many, many years to come, right? That's an understanding, right? That's a given in a lot of contexts, in most contexts. But it's incredibly difficult to actually lead organizational change, no matter how big or small it is. It's incredibly difficult to manage it. It's incredibly difficult to understand when or how you need to lead that process. And it's difficult for a number of reasons, none more so than organizational change, regardless of what it is, involves human beings. It involves a lot of people. It involves all aspects of the organization. It has an incredible ripple effect. If you make one change to a process or a policy or a procedure, there are second, third, and fourth order consequences that you have to be aware of as a leader to understand the full impact of the change that you are trying to implement, the process you are trying to lead people through. Okay, so organizational change we know is incredibly important. We know it's difficult, arguably, in my mind, one of the most complex leadership challenges that we face as leaders and managers in organizations. So as a result of that, there are many, many models and tools and approaches on how to lead change. If you just went on to Google and you Googled how to lead change, you would probably get 2 billion hits, right? But they're not all the same, and they're not all created equal, and they don't all have the same value and the same impact across the board. Some focus on task and structure. How do we reorganize our work? How do we redesign a production site? How do we rewrite job descriptions to be more relevant? Those are functional, those are structural changes that take place. But then there's the human side of change that's also important. The emotions that people go through, the way that they resist change, and we'll talk a little bit about resisting change here in a minute. And the psychological aspects that are often incredibly difficult for us as leaders to wrap our heads around, because change is a complex psychological phenomenon that as leaders we need to understand both sides of that equation, the functional side and the human side of it. Okay, so one of the models or one of the areas that we discuss as part of our change course we have a leadership course, and within that we have a change and transformation module, as we call. So essentially it's a section or a segment of the course. And we focus on how to lead organizations through change, identify the pitfalls, overcome obstacles, ultimately institutionalize new approaches in a way that benefits both the people in the organization and the organization itself. And one of the models that we touch on in our leadership course is this 4Ps model, right? We know the 4Ps of marketing. It's been around for a long time: product, price, place, promotion. Well, there's also a 4Ps of change that I believe and we believe is really interesting and valuable for a number of reasons. And we're going to walk through what those are and how that works here in a minute. But this model was developed by a psychologist and a researcher, William Bridges, and it's not an iterative or sequential model for leading change like Kotter's 8 steps, which we use in our classes. So Kotter's 8 steps kind of approaches organizational change from 1 through 8, right? Create a sense of urgency, build a coalition, generate wins, institutionalize new approaches. So you proceed through the change process in steps. The 4Ps is a little different. The 4Ps focuses on the human side of organizational change. The emotional aspects, like fear, anxiety, right, resistance, and also how to communicate and influence people to accept or buy into your change process. So it's slightly different in that regard. It is not structural or iterative in a way. It is almost a mindset that people and leaders need to understand and utilize in their daily lives in order to make change work. The 4Ps are incredibly powerful in their simplicity, I like to say, but also in their effectiveness. They can be used by any leader in any change situation. Like I said, whether you're changing production process or you're trying to change a culture. You can think about the 4Ps, you can practice them, you can use them in different situations to help understand and help people work their way through some of the ambiguity that comes along with organizational change. Just because they're simple and they're easy to understand and remember, though, doesn't necessarily mean that they are easy to master, okay? They require a lot of thought, preparation, practice, and adaptation, right? So the 4Ps is an interesting, powerful, and very useful, practical model for understanding change. So what do they mean, right? The 4Ps: purpose, picture, plan, and part. Purpose, picture, plan, and part. I remember that all the time. It's easy to remember, but buried within each of those components are some key questions we need to ask. And before we dig into that, on the left side of the screen here, you'll see this transition model from William Bridges' website. Didn't create this model. This ending, neutral zone, new beginning model has been around in different ways. But what's important about it is that it frames change as a process or as a journey. So every time you're trying to change something at your organization, there's actually an ending that takes place. The old way of doing things is going away, and a new way of doing things is emerging, okay? So that's a way to think about that. And in between those two, the ending and the beginning is the neutral zone, right, where people aren't sure, people are confused, people are concerned, people are worried about how this is going to affect them. And by using the 4Ps, by being able to communicate the 4Ps to individuals at an organization, you can help them navigate that neutral zone and solidify that new beginning and help change start to take hold within an organization. So the 4Ps: purpose. It starts with the purpose. People need to understand the logic and rationale behind a change before they will accept it. I like to call that the why, right? So why are we doing this, right? Why are we changing our strategic planning process, okay? There needs to be a real answer to that question, and I'm going to go into a little more detail on purpose here in a minute. But there has to be a reason, okay, and a valid reason for change, okay? Once you've identified that, though, the next P that is important and necessary is picture, and that's the vision. So we've identified why we're changing as part of our purpose, but now we need to create a picture, an image, a vision of what the end result will be. So people need to be able to visualize that ending before committing to the change process. What are they working towards, right? Right? That's the what, okay? So the why and the what. After we've identified those two, okay, we can create a plan. So people need plans in order to execute on change, right? They need a clear idea of how to reach the end goal in order to fully buy into the change process. I like to call this the how. How are we going to get there? We know why we're doing it. That's the purpose. We know what the end result will look like. That's the picture. But how are we going to do it? That's the plan, right? And plans need to be specific. Plans need to be actionable. Plans need to have milestones and benchmarks so people can track progress along the way, okay? And the button up the 4 Ps, we have part, and this is an important one, last but not least, of course. People need a tangible and they need a concrete way to contribute and participate in the change process for it to stick, for it to take hold. And I call that the who. What does it mean to me? What do I have to do in order to make this change work, right? What do I need to change individually? What does my boss expect of me in order to be successful in this change initiative, right? So purpose, picture, plan, and part. Those 4 elements of the 4 Ps represent a powerful way to influence and communicate and ultimately make change work. Okay, so each one of these we can talk for an hour on each one, but let's just dig into purpose in a little more detail because this is the starting point. Clarifying and communicating purpose sounds relatively straightforward, but it's not. There's a lot of ambiguity behind it. There are a lot of different emotions that tap into logic, reason, all sorts of things that go into purpose. But the first thing you have to ask yourself, as I mentioned up front, why are you changing? Why are we changing this process? Why are we changing or trying to change our culture? There needs to be a powerful and compelling reason for that. Is it competitive? Are you falling behind? Is it technological? Are you going to get disrupted? Is it social? Are the demographic trends shifting at a pace where you cannot keep up? These types of fundamental questions help us answer the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Okay, and it's a difficult question. In one of our critical thinking classes, we teach, some of you may have heard of it, the 5 whys as a way to get to root cause. You can deploy that here as well, right? You can talk about the 5 whys. Why are we changing? Well, because, our bosses want us to. That's not a good enough answer. Let's go deeper. And you have to drill down into those core issues to get at the purpose, because the purpose is essential for people to take that first step, right? You have to understand, they have to understand the purpose, right? You have to sell them on the why before you can sell them on the solution, right? Understand the urgency of the situation, the impact and the relevance to the organization, right? So continually work to refine and define that purpose and make sure it's real and relatable to people, okay? Purpose should speak to both the emotional and the rational sides of individuals, the hearts and minds, as I like to say. And that might be different for people in different stakeholder groups, right? The purpose, while at its core, will be the same. The way you frame it and position it from a communication perspective could be different. So understand the audiences that you're working with, understand the different individuals and their roles, and how purpose might be modified or adapted in order to maximize its impact. But when you communicate purpose, you need to keep it simple, keep it impactful as possible, make it resonate. Practice and rehearse, right? So think about purpose as that one sentence answer to the question, why are we doing this? Okay. It can't be because it was time to change, right? That doesn't go deeply enough. That won't resonate. It can't be because our bosses wanted us to, all right? The reason needs to be meaningful and compelling, to individuals for it to resonate, okay? So purpose is very much an exercise in root cause. It's very much an exercise in framing messages, and it's an exercise in communication, okay? And it begins that way as we try to implement change throughout our organizations. So that was just a snippet of purpose, but I like to use the 4 Ps as a way to bring organizational change sort of into the heads, into the hearts and minds of people. And what I like to tell students in our leadership course is, in order to effectively lead change, right, you need to be able to communicate all 4 Ps, purpose, picture, plan, and part, at a moment's notice, right, to anyone, anywhere, at any spot in the organization, in the lunchroom, at the water cooler, or in the C-suite, right? Think of the 4 Ps as your elevator pitch to influence change, right? You need to communicate those with clarity and confidence, right? You need to understand the rationale and the logic behind all of this and have answers to these questions at your disposal, because you never know when you're going to interact with people and when these topics might come up. And if you're able to answer these questions and communicate the 4 Ps, with confidence and clarity, you'll reduce the anxiety and the uncertainty and ultimately the resistance to the change process, because people resist change all the time, for a number of reasons. I like to say people resist change logically, psychologically, and sociologically. So they resist change because, they don't understand or don't believe in the actual message. They resist change because they are afraid what it might do to their jobs. They might not trust the new situation. They also may be part of a group or an organization or a department that is unsure of how they will end up as part of this change process. But leading with the 4 Ps allows you and allows organizations to embrace the emotional and the psychological complexity of the change process, not just the structural and functional aspects. And I always talk about that being a balance, right? As you're trying to implement a new initiative, there's the task and the function and the structure, but then there's the emotions and the psychology that goes along with that. And as a good leader and as an effective change leader, okay, you have to have a solid balance of both of those. And that's where the 4 Ps can help you with that second component, all right? So, that's just a little snippet or a nugget of a single topic that would be included in our leadership course in our session on organizational change. There would be an article or a video or an interview perhaps that we would watch online. There would be a discussion around the 4 Ps, right? Whether or not you agree with them is a very valid topic. What would you do differently? What would you add to that if you would? Because we all bring our own experiences to these conversations. And there'd be an exercise where you would perhaps try to identify a change initiative in your current role that is either not working as well as it could or is about to launch and you need to prepare a plan, and you can come up with a 4 Ps, essentially communication plan, where you can answer the questions, you can identify all the necessary components, and then you can practice it, right, and share that with your colleagues in order to receive feedback and to brainstorm, and then ultimately apply what we're learning through the exercises, through the concepts, through the cases in your life at General Motors. And we do that in lieu of a lot of exams and finals, right? We just see tremendous value in the application of our concepts, right? And the relevance of what we do in the real world as opposed to multiple choice testing. I could give a multiple choice test on the 4 Ps, right? But there's so much more value in you applying it, developing a plan, answering those questions for a real change initiative that you are working with at your organization. All right. So that's kind of an overview or a nugget of what we would do in a typical class. Gabe?
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Hopefully everyone learned a little bit more about how to make change happen. So some questions about the program. A lot of folks are, how many classes do I need to take? There's 12 courses in total. It's a 2-year program. So it's 36 credit hours. It's 100% online. Some folks will say, do I have to come on ground at all? No. GM, in the past, we have offered on ground. You may have heard some folks through the program were finishing up one, but your cohort would be 100% online. And how the program works is you'll have a week to do the assignments. There's no specific check-in different times. So I know a lot of people travel and have work or life balances, so you can choose how you want to complete the program. We do have a spring start and a fall 19 start. This spring, we will start January 14th. And the way that it also works, I talked a little bit about the structure of the courses, but you will be taking 2 courses per semester. Each of them are 8 weeks long. So you'll concentrate on one course at a time and then have a break and then concentrate on the other course at a time. This is perfect for those that are working, which you all are. But because we know that everyone is busy, we want you to concentrate on just one course. The program cost is $37,000 and $80, and this is that's for the whole program, the whole 2 years, and that's broken down into 6 different semesters. And so we did have a question on the chat about tuition reimbursement. So we have private scholarships available, and GM Corporate also participates in tuition reimbursement, as well as if you work for a Tier 1 supplier or a GM dealership, you can talk with your HR office about what tuition reimbursement you get. For GM Corporate, I can give a little bit more information in a conversation through email, but you will be going through a company called EDCOR, EDCOR, and that's the salaried tuition program. And one of the first steps is to log into the program. You can search that on Socrates, but you'll be communicating with your director about how to get started and also get the approval process. So that is a common question. So maybe you'll be asking, okay, Gabe, what's next? How do I apply? It's pretty simple process. Like I said, we all know that you are working professionals. So in order to be qualified for the program, you do need to graduate with a bachelor's degree from an accredited university. There's an online application, which we will send in a follow-up email, and you will need to provide us your transcripts from any university that you attended in undergraduate. We do need a resume, a current resume, and you can attach that to the online application. And then there is an interview with an admissions representative. So that's either myself or Lucy Pagan. She will be also helping with the GM cohorts coming up. And I want to make a special note that our GMAT or GRE is not required. And also a note about the tuition. There's no additional fees or technology fees or book costs. Everything's online through Blackboard, and so that is the flat rate. So we keep it very simple. Okay. So that is the conclusion of our formal presentation. We do want to thank you for attending today, and I do want to open up the opportunity to ask questions through the chat function. So I will be looking and listening, and while you guys are typing up your questions, I do want to ask Matt a common question so that you all can hear. So Matt, how available are faculty to the students?
We are incredibly available. It's different in a lot of ways because as faculty members, we are with you on that journey, and we are right there throughout the program. We're in the discussions. We are providing a lot of feedback on your assignments and the work that you're doing. It's part of our culture at DeVos Graduate School and at Northwood. We're really, we immerse ourselves in these courses. And, when students move through the program, we see a student come in on day one, and then we see a student when they graduate, and the transformation is so tangible. And, we love that feeling of seeing our students succeed. I mean, we want you to succeed. We want you to do the best capstone project you can do, because we want you to get promoted and get promoted and get promoted. and it's in our interest to be with you along the way. Personally, I am almost available 24/7. I don't want to say 24/7, but text, phone call, email. I mean, I've done calls with students in a variety of different places, and because I've been a student too, and I understand the anxiety and sort of the nerves that come along with being a student, especially a working adult student, and how you have limited time. A deadline might be approaching, you have questions, you need to get in touch with your faculty member quickly. And that's what we understand, right? So you text me, I'm pretty much texting you right back, or I'm emailing you, or you're calling me. We are available we are incredibly available. Let's just put it that way.
Great. Thanks, Matt. That's really nice to hear. Another question we get a lot is, like undergraduate, do I get assigned an academic advisor? How does that work in graduate school? So here at DeVos Graduate School, it's pretty unique. You are assigned an academic advisor, and that person is kind of like your one-stop shop. So we really focus on you being a professional and you focusing on your career progression. And so your academic advisor, she will register you for classes. If you have questions about financial aid or anything else, that is like I said, your one-stop shop. And that's something that we do believe that is unique about DeVos and how we make sure we cater to our GM Executive MBA students. Another note is you will have access to career services during class and after as an alumni. And so we have Elizabeth Bryce as our DeVos career coach, and she is there not just to help you with resumes at all, but to help you with your career goals and your what you want to achieve. And she's a really great resource, and we're really lucky to have her. So there's another question. I'm going to read it from the screen. What is the suggested application deadline for spring or in the typical timeline? So we typically like to say about 2 weeks prior to the spring start. So January 14th is when classes actually start. Of course, we need time to register you and to process your application. And so we have private scholarships that are available as well that do have some deadlines to them. So in the follow-up email, I will give you those deadlines, but we'd really like to see everything in before January 1 for the spring start. And one thing to highlight also is when you start in the spring, you'll be starting with a cohort and you'll be with the same people for 2 years. And so we really strive to make sure that that cohort is completed and we know who's going to start when, so that you can get to know each other as well before classes start. Another question is, what is the fall start date? So it is typically late August, the last Sunday of August. And then do you have any summer intake? So for the GM program, we start in fall and spring. I would suppose if we had enough interest, we could, but the way that it currently works is fall and spring starts. And Matt, I guess you're getting asked for your phone number, so availability on that. Yes, our faculty members are definitely available, which is a very unique point to DeVos Graduate School. And I didn't brag enough, or Matt didn't brag enough, but at DeVos Graduate School, 80% of our faculty either own their own businesses or are consultants. And so, and they have the highest degree that they're actually teaching with at least 15 years of experience. And so you are getting really qualified faculty members who are currently in the industry and keeping up with what is happening in today's society. Great. Okay. Well, that looks like it. I do want to thank you very much for your time. It's really appreciative. And you will be receiving an email from DeVos with our contact information in case you do have any additional questions. And as a reminder, our spring 2019 semester does begin January 14th. So if you start the application, I'd be happy to help assist you through the process. Thank you again for your time, and I hope you have a great day.